Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John's Reports for the 11th of March. Well, coming off that game here, we continue that melt up back towards the highs. Not a surprise given what we were seeing from the rising DOC red. We also had midterm support, and shorts still hadn't gotten back above the zero. I think we're just getting there now, so close to it. So, and not surprisingly, that's going to start to build right back up at the high. So, but again, as long as Power Mode 2 keeps rising and it's getting close here to moving above the 13 level. What are we reading right there? 1120. So that will make a difference if it's able to reach that level. Turning to the NASDAQ, we can see it's also building up the same kind of momentum, just a little bit behind, at least from a Fibonacci standpoint that we're looking at here, because we've had a much steeper move, and now people are seeing some value and wanting to take advantage of that, especially now that the stimulus has passed and that flood of easy money is still going to keep flowing, and I think they're talking about even an additional one. You can see the little C in the corner. That's because we're getting ready to rotate to the June contract. So be ready for that adjustment coming up here shortly. And from a gold standpoint, a slight build here from coming off extreme oversold conditions, but the sustainability of that's still in question, though we have all of the building blocks. You can see green now continue to move to maintain that, so that there's not a reverse. And also the euro doing exactly the same thing. So now that the stimulus has been finalized and we see that new money is going to flow into the US, that helps bolster the EU, simply because they're not printing as much as fast, and there are other issues that are systemic to the euro that, whether they get resolved or not, isn't going to matter as much as the trade does matter to the S&P, because with the euro rising, that is helpful to general market performance. So when we look at it from an intraday standpoint, we had that gold rising, and then we went into this little bit of funk, and what you might see here, a couple of additional ones. These are some adjustments I'm making to DOC spread readings to get more effectively the peak areas of it. It will give us probably a little bit higher exit points as opposed to some of the more conservative readings that I've used to produce the magentas, and we may get fewer of those as well. So that should help, particularly when it gets into like choppy blah like we had here in the middle range, where it doesn't give it as distinct, and it's literally tied into the Power Mode 2 and how those adjustments work. But just from regular DOC standpoints, each time we had the break, once we get to the final one, boom, took us all the way back down to the zero. What you will see on the Power Mode 2, and let me go ahead and just enlarge that for you while we're here. I've added a couple of additional lines to this, and this is because right around the 17.5 range tends to be what we find as a peak level for the directional line of Power Mode 2, and when we start to reach those levels is where we tend to get these rollovers, and so it becomes kind of an interesting side point. And then the second one that's added in there is this 4 range, particularly for the magenta, because we find that you end up with much stronger up moves when we are slightly below that, meaning that you have a buy signal that ends up dipping towards that area, tends to give little punches back up, and you can see each time it takes place. So adding some of those details into the code, but I just thought I'd explain why you might be seeing that and wondering what the significance is. But as we proceeded on through the day, it was generally just a mid-range up bias after we had that one move down to the bottom, and nothing really changed from there. But you can see the fewer magenta dots representing what we expect to be bigger declines, and actually so far pretty decent on that. No objections yet. Thought I'd throw up here Bitcoin for a second, just pointing out again serious positive extremes that we had set up, DOC spread, and of course from its peak all the way back down to fill that positive extreme setup. We can even see the same thing with GameStop still, just because it's funny to look at these things and people get so shocked. It's like, oh, they pumped it and then was shockingly really? Look at the positive extremes. We even hit positive extremes going back through here and then all the way to the original gap up, filled that, and then went back to the previous set that was from over here and filled that all in. And then they started the cycle right back over again. So it just points out there's a lot more order to things than people can tend to see because they don't know what they're looking for. So that it looks like magic to them or some kind of other strange occurrence, but really not. As always, though, I will keep updating you on relevant details on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.